it's Jamie Siegel again, the Global Director of Licensing at the Open Invention Network. And we are doing our regular video series, reaching out to our current members and asking them just a few questions that we think is going to be informative to those of you that are thinking about joining the Open Invention Network. So today I have with me Roger Shang from Alibaba. Roger, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, so let's dive right into the questions for today. And as I do with almost everybody I interview, the first question is simply, why did Alibaba join the Open Invention Network?
Right. So when Alibaba considered OIN, first we were impressed by OIN's vision and foresight to foster openness and collaboration and to deter patent aggression in the open source Linux space. So we thought that's really a remarkable, admirable vision to not be driven by profit, but to think what's good for the community, for everyone. So we want to show our support to open source Linux as a large company, as a company that's a leader in cloud computing and e-commerce. We work with open source. When I joined Alibaba about 12 years ago, we're already using open source, and gradually after using open source technology, we started contributing to open source to make modifications, to open source our own projects. So now we have hundreds of projects on GitHub. We also donate some projects to open source foundations to work with them. You may have heard us saying that open source is eating the world or is taking over the world. And we truly believe that. We see it in China and elsewhere that open source is increasingly important, especially for interoperability and to prevent reliance on one or two proprietary vendors. So that's the importance of open source, and we want to support that. Now, when we consider the patent landscape, Alibaba actually didn't really need the license to protect itself. As a large company, it has the resources to develop its own patents, to develop a patent strategy to protect itself. But we realize that as we grow, we have a responsibility to the community, not just to protect ourselves, but also to foster open collaboration and sharing in the entire community. So that's why we joined OIN.
That's really a fantastic summary of the reasons. Personally, I can tell you that having spent a good chunk of my career doing business in China, I think that the open source wave is truly remarkable. It's really in my mind, the first global technology solution that China as a country has really embraced as a global solution that they're participating in very actively. Quite remarkable. All right, so let's move on to the second question. The second question is, so you saw all the reasons why to join. Now, what benefits have you seen now that you've been a member from being a part of the Open Invention Network community?
Yeah, so one direct benefit is obviously the patent cross-license. We license our patents in the open source Linux space to others. We also get the license back from all other participants. So this is a large number of patents when you consider the hundreds and hundreds of companies that have joined. And essentially, all these companies, they agree that they're free to compete, they're free to execute their business strategy, but they agree that patent lawsuit is not a productive way to do it in the Linux space. So they're basically agreeing to not go through lawsuits with respect to open source Linux. So we thought that's a good strategy. It makes entire business sense. And so that patent license is good for everyone. And also to foster this openness and collaboration in the open source community, that's good for everyone, because people are not afraid that when a company wants to do something, there's a hidden agenda, it's really trying to collect evidence for patent infringement. Instead, you can work on collaboration. You can each work on serving your customers, growing your market, improving the technology, and eventually everyone wins. And there's yeah. I'm sorry. And an extra benefit is develop relationships with businesses and with business leaders that share our vision and our outlook in the open source community, that have the shared vision that by working together, growing the pie, everyone benefits.
That's great, and that really reflects what we expect from the membership, from the community. It's not like just joining or getting a license from a patent pool. This is really a global community that feeds upon itself to make more development faster, better than any proprietary solution we've seen before.
Yes.
So in the third question, I'm going to tweak a little bit. So the question I have for you is, what would you say to others that are thinking about joining OIN? And in particular, your last response really brought to mind a challenge that I think many potential members have to deal with, which is, how do you explain to your senior management that you have to get approval from that the trade-off of whatever burden there may be on your portfolio by joining is far outweighed by the benefits that you receive by joining?
Right. And that's really unique, and that's really what's great about OIN is that there's really no downside to join. So the upside is that you get a patent license. You get a patent license to a huge universe of patents, thousands and thousands in the open source Linux space by some of the world's leading companies. And it's free. So what's the downside? The downside is all that you have to give up, all that you have to agree to is that you are not going to initiate lawsuits in open source Linux. You're free to execute your business strategy and your competition strategy. You're free to compete with other participants of OIN. You're free to file lawsuits, but just not in open source Linux. I think that makes sense because open source Linux is the foundation, the building block of so many things. And when companies build their business on Linux, they're free to compete at the business level, at the application level, as long as they agree to not harm the Linux foundation. So right. That's yeah. I think that's why you're really giving up nothing substantial when you join OIN. And also you have the benefit of getting the satisfaction that you're participating in this global open source community. You're contributing to the community. You are fostering an open and sharing culture for the community. And that helps you, and that helps everyone, and helps your customers and your suppliers.
Thank you, Roger. That's a fantastic answer. So I guess in summary, I would probably be okay to conclude that Alibaba is pretty happy with its decision to join Open Invention Network and is looking forward to being a productive community participant.
Oh, absolutely. We're thrilled. We're thrilled that we can find leaders that share our vision and our outlook. We know that every time you make a decision, it's a trade-off. When you decide to use open source, when you decide to contribute to open source, you know that there are implications of patents. Like every open source license, almost every mainstream open source license has a patent license provision to it. So you have to consider what is more important. Is maintaining the right to launch patent lawsuits more important, or is growing your ecosystem, introducing your technology to your partners and suppliers and customers and developers more important? So if you are clear on your business strategy, I think you'll be able to make a decision easily.
Right, even with the idea, it's not really a stark either or. There's plenty of members that we have that are actually quite active in patent enforcement and patent licensing, but the Linux core is something that every one of our community members has agreed is not the appropriate place for those kind of activities or for business plans.
Exactly, and like you said, open source and patents are not mutually exclusive. We frequently file patents to protect ourselves, to as a deterrence, to as a reserve that we can potentially counter when others sue us. But
Right.
that does not deter us from embracing open source.
Fantastic. Roger, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I think our future members of Open Invention Network are really going to appreciate your insight. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
You're welcome. Nice talking to you, Jamie.